Dr. K believes that the cause of your porn addiction are emotional issues. I'm here to tell you that you do not have a porn addiction. You do not have to respond to your emotional issues in terms of using porn. You don't even need to feel the desire to do so. Urges that happen to you don't happen to you. They're from you. You desire things. You don't have a broken brain, and you can move on from porn easily by not believing you're addicted, not feeling hopeless, not feeling like you're a victim, and actually seeing greater benefit and happiness in moving on so that you want to quit porn, not feeling like you have to quit porn. In this video, I will respond to Dr. K's neuroscience, nofap, very typical arguments. I don't disrespect the guy at all. I believe he's got great intentions. I'm just going to respond to his arguments with pure logic that is derived from the freedom model mostly, which is free in the description, and loads of other sources that I'll also have linked below.
The addiction creates a desperation to fix. I need to fix it now. It needs to be fixed forever. So the goal becomes, how do I fix it permanently? And the moment that we let the desperation fuel our desire to overcome an addiction is the moment we lose to the addiction. Because if it's being fueled by the desperation, what happens when the desperation eases up a little bit? What happens when you have a good day and you feel less desperate? So you are setting up a fuel which will run out.
Dr. K says don't quit porn due to desperation. He says that once that desperation feeling runs out, you'll run out of fuel, so to speak, and you won't be able to quit. Okay, fair enough, it makes sense. Here's the thing though, what is your desperation caused by? He says your addiction causes desperation. That to me doesn't make any sense. What causes your desperation is the reasoning in your head that you're not willing to pay the costs of porn anymore. There are very heavy costs to be paid, PIED, lower energy, shame, etc. And you're not willing to pay them anymore. So in that moment where you're like, fuck, I don't want to pay these costs anymore, you just really want to quit. I had this time, I had PIED, and in those moments when I had PIED, that's when I really felt desperate to quit, because these costs were not worth paying anymore in my mind, and I really wanted to quit. However, the reason why it's desperate is because you also simultaneously believe that you need porn for some reason. You need it in your life for some reason. You're hooked to it somehow. You're hooked. Your brain has changed, whatever. You're addicted to it, therefore you need it. What I'm telling you is that isn't true. However, when you believe in addiction, that's a great reason to keep using porn. This belief is insidious, because when you believe you need something, you feel like it. If I feel like I need hot drinks all the time, I'm gonna feel like it. If I believe like I need my hand cream all the time, I'm gonna feel like I need it. The world is not separated into addictive desires and non-addictive desires. There is just desire based on perceived need. It comes from the addiction myth. If you believe you need something, if you believe you're not going to be okay without it, if you believe that if you don't have it, you're going to be beholden with external urges that are going to plague your mind and control you from the inside, then that is a great reason to just use porn. Carry on. Do not face that reality. The good news is that this future reality where you're beholden with urges isn't necessarily so. It's only there because you believe in addiction. When you don't believe in addiction, it becomes a case of just deciding how you want to live your life, what's going to make you happier. And then when you realize, hang on, I can be happier without porn. I don't actually need it for anything. Even though once upon a time I did feel as though I need it, it turns out I don't. And then you're free to actually move on and you live your life how you want to live your life. And you can want to be abstinent. Dr. K isn't saying that here. He's saying that this desperation is this fuel, and when the fuel runs out, you're kind of fucked. Not true.
So if we look at the data on pornography and how it affects our brain, people do not watch pornography because they're horny or lustful. This is a common misconception. They're not like the horniest people on the planet. Or horny people can watch a lot of pornography. But people who tend to get addicted to pornography are usually not horny when they watch it, okay? Different thing.
Here's the thing about the horniness, right? He says that people who get addicted to porn aren't necessarily doing it because of horniness. But you've probably realized in your life that when you are horny, sometimes you watch porn. Here's the deal. Some people watch porn when they're horny, some people do not. What determines whether you want porn when you're horny is how you connect things up in your mind. If you believe that when you're horny, you're going to want porn, you're going to want porn. If you're horny and you believe that you need porn to somehow deal with that emotion, that creates a need for porn. In the same way that with my hand cream, when my hands are looking particularly dry, I feel like I need this, and so I desire it. In the same way that when you're horny, if you feel like you need porn in that instance, you will fucking feel like you need it. It's the same thing with alcohol. With alcohol, I've never felt as though alcohol helps me with my negative emotions. I've never felt that way. I felt very sad in my life where I was drinking for other reasons like going out and partying, but I never drank for the reasons of relieving my emotions because I never mentally connected it in such a way. Dr. K is framing it like if you use porn and you feel negative emotions, then you're going to want it for that. But here's the thing. It's not necessarily the case because you're the one who mentally connects porn to the idea that you can relieve stress with it or that you need porn in times of stress. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not necessarily the case. It's not causal. Fire necessarily causes light and heat. Horniness does not cause porn use. Emotional stress does not cause porn use. It only feels like you need it in those instances when you perceive it to be that. When you reason that you think that you need it for that reason is when it feels that way. It's the same thing with the hand cream. It's the same thing that, oh, I believe I need my keys when I leave the house. And if I leave the house and I don't have my keys, I'm going to feel like I need to get back into my house to grab them. It's the same type of desire. Dr. K is saying that porn can help you with your negative emotions, and you've probably experienced this yourself. What I'm proposing is a much different theory, but I think it's the actual truth. When you watch porn, you pay attention to the porn video. You pay attention to the penile sensation. You're paying a lot of attention to it. Here's the thing. When you pay attention to anything, you are now no longer paying attention to that test that's due in 2 weeks. You're now no longer paying attention to the fact that you don't have much money in your bank account. You're not paying attention to the fact that something terrible happened to you. You don't feel stress when you're not paying attention to it. It's called getting your mind off it. And people do it all the time with a lot of different things. People might talk to a friend to get their mind off it. They might watch a movie to take their mind off it. They might drink alcohol to take their mind off it. They might smoke a cigarette. They might do anything, go for a walk, read a book, just sit there and be mindful. Just sit there and think about it. Do anything to not think about it. Porn is not a unique cure here. It isn't a neurochemical magic button to relieve your stress. And when you stop perceiving it as such, and you realize that it's just a distraction, you decrease the value of it mentally. And you start to realize, I don't actually need it because it's just a distraction like anything else. And you know what? There are probably better distractions out there that don't come with the heavy costs that I'm not willing to pay anymore. Now, I'm not saying that you should be distracting yourself by drinking or by watching TV or anything like that as soon as you have stressful thoughts instead of looking at porn. What I'm saying is that when you decrease the value of PMO mentally, you don't see it as a unique cure anymore. You don't see it as this magic button. And when you don't see it as this magic button, you don't desire it in the same way. You don't realize that you need it. You can just sit there and think, I don't really care. I'm actually happier not having that because of the benefits that I get in not using PMO. I feel better not using PMO. When you realize that you have full mental autonomy, you are the producer of your desires. You can desire differently. You can choose to desire abstinence. Yeah, it might be a little bit scary to begin with, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be scary. The reason why it's scary to begin with is because it's new. You're going to big school, you're moving house, you're doing a new subject, you're meeting new friends, you're doing anything that's new. It's going to feel a little bit uneasy because of the newness of it. And when you quit porn, you're literally transitioning to a new kind of life, and that's fine. We evolve all the time, we change all the time. You've experienced change a lot in your life, going from school to school, subject to subject, doing whatever. This is just another type of change. That doesn't mean you need to scurry back into your old lifestyle. Unless, of course, you want to. It's all up to you. But if you want to change, you can want to change. You cannot view yourself as addicted. You can actually move on from this shit.
What tends to happen is we use pornography for emotional regulation. So the key thing about sexual activity is that sexual activity has a very powerful effect in the brain. So if we look at the purpose of the human brain and body, it is to procreate, which is why if you look at sort of like fertility and like things like that, like you'll see this situation where if the body can afford to mate, it will, because that's ultimately what the goal is. So you'll even see in some situations like, anglerfish, where the male anglerfish will attach to a female and all of the male anglerfish's organs will atrophy and it will become one giant testicle and pump sperm into the female anglerfish. So we see some highly specialized adaptations based on sexuality.
Dr. K says that we're evolutionarily designed to procreate, which I'm sure you'd agree with. But here's the thing. We're also evolutionarily designed for a lot of things. We have a lot of hardware that's built into us through evolutionary psychology, right? So the amygdala fear circuit, for instance, It exists in our brain, it exists in all of our brains. It's extremely primitive. It's been existing for God knows how many millions of years in fish and stuff like that. What I'm saying is that just because we watch a horror movie doesn't mean we get scared automatically. Horror movies don't cause fear. Horror movies have to be interpreted to be scary. If someone doesn't believe in ghosts and they watch a ghost movie, after the ghost movie they walk away like, it was an alright movie, but they don't feel scared afterwards. Whereas someone who believes in ghosts, they watch a ghost movie and now it's late at night and they need to walk to the bathroom, but they don't want to go to the bathroom because there's a ghost, or there could be a ghost. My point is, the horror movie doesn't cause fear. We have to interpret it as scary. Some person will find it extremely scary, another person will find it moderately scary, another person won't feel scared by it. In the same way, porn videos do not cause arousal. They have to be interpreted as such. And if you see sufficient benefit in not watching it, not mentally engaging with it, and that's actually what you want to do, then you are free to do that. And the way you want to do it is first of all by not viewing yourself as addicted, because as I explained at the start of the video, viewing yourself as addicted gives you such a strong reason to use and to stay in this cycle. Leaving it just seems so shit because you don't want to be beholden to all these cravings, you don't want to fight, and you're like, fuck this. Secondly, benefits of abstinence. Learn to want abstinence. Write down all the benefits of abstinence and move towards it. What this guy is saying is problematic as fuck, and I'm going to react to it again in part 2. I'm trying to spread the word of this content around the nofap space. I'm trying to really provide a good counter voice here because I believe there's so much misinformation. Again, no harm was meant towards Dr. K. I'm sure he's a good guy, but unfortunately he's spreading a lot of misinformation. Like for the algo if you want to help to spread this message. Subscribe because I'm going to be uploading a shitload more content, and it's going to be targeting a lot of the common misinformation, which I think is really, really important, because if we don't tackle the misinformation that's in the nofap space, how are we going to live despite having these mythologies in our mind? How are you going to live believing you're addicted? It sucks. I was there for 6 years. It fucking sucks. Therefore, the misinformation is required. Gotta take down the misinformation. It's everywhere. It's rife, and it's being spread by people in authority, such as this doctor, this neuroscientist, for goodness sake. People will just trust this guy blindly because he uses fancy brain terminology, when really we need to focus on the arguments and use logic to determine whether they're actually true or not. It doesn't matter if he's the king of the fucking world. If his arguments don't add up, they don't add up. So yeah, subscribe and read the books in the description. Don't trust me, I'm a young guy on the internet. Do not trust this young brown face. Look in the fucking description, that's got all of my source material, in particular the Freedom Model for Addictions, which is the best book on how to quit PMO ever. Read that shit, it's free, and yeah, you don't have a disease, you don't have an addiction, urges don't happen to you, you're free to move on if you wish.